Far beyond the edges of Earth's solar system, in a distant spiral arm of the galaxy, the Grand Council of the Thalrex Dominion gathered. They were tall, pale blue beings with elongated skulls and sharp, glowing eyes. Their armor shimmered like liquid metal, and their voices echoed like wind through steel. High Warlord Krextz stood at the center of the chamber. His cape flowed behind him, and his voice cut through the silence. Enough with these old legends. Earth is weak. Their technology is ancient. Their species is chaotic. They pose no threat to the Dominion. One of the advisors, a hunched elder with silver markings along his neck, stepped forward. He activated a hologram. A sphere of light appeared in the center of the chamber. Inside it, a message played, an old, scratchy recording in the voice of a long-dead alien scholar. To any who hear this, avoid Earth. We tried. We failed. They are not like us. They fight not with order, but with chaos. They do not break. They burn everything. The hologram ended. A thick silence followed. Krex sneered. My ancestors were cowards. We are not. He slammed his hand down, and a map lit up. The invasion route to Earth. Fleet icons blinked red, thousands of ships strong. The council bowed in agreement. The order was given. Deep below the surface of Earth, in the fortified underground city of Nova Bastion, Commander Alara Voss stood in front of a digital wall. On it, dozens of tiny dots blinked, training drones, moving through a virtual battlefield. Young recruits in gray combat suits darted between cover, firing at simulated targets. Alara, in her late 30s, wore standard defense armor, dented, scratched, and well-used. Her eyes were sharp. Her dark hair was tied back tightly. A long scar ran from her temple to her jaw, a reminder of her first encounter with alien invaders years ago. Too slow, she called out. Too clean. The real enemy doesn't wait for you to aim. She turned to a red-haired recruit who hesitated behind cover. You pause like that in a real fight, and you're dead. Move. The recruit obeyed, flinching under her glare. Alara watched for a moment, then turned away. She tapped her earpiece. Control, give me a radar scan. Anything unusual? The voice on the other end sounded casual at first. Nothing major, Commander. Wait, hold on. Silence. Then, Commander, we have incoming. Multiple signals just entered the outer solar grid. Over 1,000 vessels. Size, unknown. Pattern matches Thalrex. Alara's blood ran cold. Sound the alarm. Across Earth, hidden defense systems came online. Satellite arrays began spinning. Old, forgotten bunkers lit up for the first time in decades. Cities locked down. People ran for shelters. Skies turned orange as defense shields activated. In Nova Bastion, sirens wailed. Alara ran to the central war room. Giant screens showed the Thalrex fleet, miles wide, slowly descending toward the planet. Their ships moved like shadows swallowing stars. Alara stood at the center of the chaos, staring at the screen. She took a slow breath. We always knew they'd come, she said softly. She turned to the operators and officers around her. Send the signal to all resistance cells. Activate every defense satellite. Dig in. We hold them at the surface. A young tech looked up, voice shaking. Commander, their numbers. They're massive. Alara didn't blink. So is our anger. Far above Earth, the first Thalrex ships broke through the upper atmosphere. Their hulls glowed hot. Energy beams charged beneath their surfaces. The invasion had begun. And on every Thalrex command deck, the same message blinked from deep archives. Do not invade Earth. They didn't listen. The skies above Earth turned black. Not from clouds or storms, but from the arrival of the Thalrex fleet. Massive alien ships, shaped like floating knives and glowing with red energy, sliced through the atmosphere. Their surfaces shimmered with shields, and their engines roared like distant thunder. Cities across the planet looked up and saw what had only been rumors, fears, and warnings. Now, they were real. High Warlord Krextz stood tall on the bridge of his flagship, Dread Sunday. Behind him, a dozen officers monitored battle data. The surface of Earth was shown on a large curved screen, blinking with red and blue signals. Begin orbital strikes, Krex ordered calmly. Giant energy cannons on the undersides of the ships lit up. Within seconds, beams of light rained down, striking military bases, communication towers, and defense satellites. Explosions tore through the Earth's surface, turning mountains to craters and buildings to dust. But Earth did not break. Underground cities like Nova Bastion activated emergency shields. Resistance bunkers sealed tight. Old weapons, once thought useless, began to fire back. Railguns hidden inside mountains, anti-air turrets in the Arctic, and and stealth drones launched from the sea. The battle for Earth had begun. In Nova Bastion, Commander Alara Voss sprinted down a hallway toward the surface launch bay. Officers and engineers ran in all directions. The floor trembled from impacts above. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Alara entered the bay and saw her squad, 5 hand-picked soldiers ready for anything. All wore adaptive armor with old-world upgrades, magnet boots, plasma knives, and quick-jump thrusters. New plan, Alara said, grabbing a pulse rifle from the rack. Thalrex landed near the ruins of Eastridge. They're building a command post. We take it down before they spread. Her second-in-command, Sergeant Nico Hale, nodded. Heavy risk. Worth it. Alara smirked. That's Earth style. They boarded a low-flying stealth dropship and launched. Meanwhile, the Thalrex moved quickly. Swarms of armored drones flew ahead of their ground troops. The machines scanned terrain, burned through forests, and secured key roads. Their soldiers, tall, insect-like, armored in black plates, marched in columns, their weapons humming with stored energy. They spoke in harsh, clicking sounds. To them, humans were just part of the dirt, easy to crush. But they were wrong. At Eastridge, just as the Thalrex deployed signal towers and dug command trenches, Alara's dropship soared over a broken bridge. She gave the order. Go loud. The squad dropped from the ship like falling meteors. Their thrusters flared. They hit the ground behind enemy lines and opened fire. Explosions ripped through the alien camp. Alara led the charge, weaving through cover, shooting with precise bursts. Her team worked like clockwork, disabling shields, planting charges, taking out commanders. The Thalrex, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. But their formations fell apart under the sudden, brutal human attack. One alien officer tried to call for reinforcements until Alara shot his comm unit, then shot him. Within minutes, the entire post burned. From orbit, Krex watched the scene unfold. He frowned. How he muttered. The human resistance, despite being outgunned and outnumbered, was not retreating. They were attacking. Fast, chaotic, unpredictable. His strategy team showed confusion. Their tactics don't follow logic, one said. They're using outdated weapons, said another. But, effectively. Krex's eyes narrowed. They're animals. Keep striking. Burn the surface. Smother their hope. He ordered a new wave of landings. Dozens of Thalrex transports descended into war zones. Urban centers, forest bunkers, and ocean bases came under siege. But for every Thalrex victory, the humans answered with something unexpected: traps in abandoned cities, magnetic bombs hidden in scrapyards, and snipers who vanished before detection. Back at Nova Bastion, Alara returned with her team. Smoke streaked her armor. Her hands were scratched and burned, but her eyes burned brighter. An officer ran up to her. We're receiving a signal from New Geneva. They held the Western Ridge. And Antarctica reports a full rappel of enemy drones. Alara smiled faintly. They're learning, she said. Good. She turned to the central screen. Still, the map blinked red. So many enemy units. So many battles left to fight. They came from the sky thinking we'd fall, she said quietly. But Earth stands. We always do. Outside, beyond the shield dome, smoke rose into the sky. But inside the bunker, lights were on. Power surged. People prepared. The fire from the sky had come, but it had not won. The third day of the invasion dawned under a blood-red sky. Fires burned across the continents. Entire cities had been scarred by Thalrex plasma cannons. Bridges were ash. Skyscrapers lay shattered. Air was thick with smoke, and the smell of scorched metal clung to every breeze. But Earth was not silent. Underground, in hidden bunkers and sealed transit systems, humanity was gathering. All across the globe, people were no longer running. They were fighting back. Commander Alara Voss stood before a giant screen in Nova Bastion's war room. It flickered with live feeds from resistance cells, dozens of them. Cities that had gone dark were lighting up again. Old communication arrays were being reactivated. Even in places that hadn't seen war in centuries, humans were digging in. Patch me through to all channels, Alara said. An engineer nodded. A green light blinked. Alara stepped forward. Her voice rang out, not just in Nova Bastion, but through radios, screens, and mobile links across every continent. This is Commander Alara Voss of the Earth Defense Forces. We are still here. The Thalrex thought they could break us. They were wrong. Every bunker, every mountain, every ruined city, we make them our weapon. Wherever you are, fight. You are not alone. Her words traveled far. In the ruins of old Berlin, A gang of scavengers wired together rusted missile launchers from a scrapyard and took down a Thalrex patrol ship. In Tokyo's submerged districts, ex-military divers planted underwater mines beneath alien landing crafts, blowing them sky-high. In the deserts of North Africa, nomads on solar bikes ambushed a Thalrex convoy, using terrain and speed to their advantage. Even isolated farm communities joined the fight, turning barns into hideouts, irrigation drones into recon scouts, and tractors into armored battering rams. Back on the Thalrex command ship Dread Sun, High Warlord Krex watched these developments with growing irritation. His officers provided updates, none of them good. Resistance units have doubled in number. They've hijacked 3 of our recon satellites. Their casualties are high, but they're adapting. Krex slammed his clawed hand on the data table. They should be retreating. They should be begging. Why do they not fall? An older strategist spoke carefully. They're not logical, Warlord. They're emotional. And they fight with something else. Pride. Rage. Defiance. Fools, Krex growled. If their hearts give them strength, then we will crush their hearts. He ordered the bombardment of key cultural sites. Libraries. Monuments. Symbols. But even as ancient temples crumbled and museums burned, the resistance did not weaken. It grew stronger. In Nova Bastion, Alara paced in the dim war room. The weight of global strategy sat heavy on her shoulders. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Her armor was scuffed and stained. Her voice was hoarse. Sergeant Nico entered, holding a data tablet. We cracked one of their communication protocols, he said. We can listen in now. Maybe even spoof a few of their orders. Alara took the tablet, eyes lighting up. That's our edge. She called in her tech teams, hackers, engineers, AI analysts. They set to work, using salvaged alien tech to jam signals, redirect troops, and trick Thalrex drones into turning on each other. Entire alien battalions became isolated, confused, easy targets. Meanwhile, Alara's resistance command grew. She connected with former leaders across the globe, a grizzled warlord in the Andes who once led a militia, a brilliant codebreaker in Mumbai who had lived off-grid for a decade, a young rebel in Lagos with a network of underground fighters. Together, they formed a new alliance, the Earth Front. Alara's voice became its anchor. Her strategies, its heartbeat. They coordinated strikes, shared resources, and created a unified command. For the first time since the invasion began, the Thalrex suffered full retreats in 3 regions. Entire cities were reclaimed. Alien outposts were overrun. Their elite units, the feared Crimson Walkers, were ambushed and wiped out in a mountain pass. In the Dread Sun, Krex stared at a new battle map. Red markers showed lost ground. His best units were falling. Morale among his commanders was cracking. He snarled. They fight like savages. He turned to his council. No more surgical strikes. No more strategy. Burn everything. The whole surface. I want them choking on ash. Orders went out. Orbital ships prepared for total bombardment. But even as fire rained from above again, humans had already moved underground, deep into the Earth's bones. The resistance was not a front line. It was everywhere. And it was rising. Far below, in Nova Bastion, Alara watched the screen showing fires across the horizon. Her voice, low and certain, cut through the room. Let them burn the sky. They can't burn what they can't find. And they'll never kill what they can't understand. She turned to her team. It's time to turn this war. Earth burned, but it did not fall. Every day, the Thalrex unleashed more destruction. Plasma strikes leveled cities. Forests were turned to ash. Seas boiled where orbital beams struck deep. But the humans would not surrender. No matter how much land was lost, no matter how many lives were taken, the resistance grew stronger, bolder, smarter. In an underground war room lit by cold blue light, Commander Alara Voss stared at a black screen. It was older than any other system in Nova Bastion, locked behind military clearance codes that hadn't been touched in decades. She had spent the past 12 hours working with a recovered AI core from an ancient satellite uplink. What it revealed stunned her. A single line of text blinked on the screen now. Project Skyfong. Status: dormant. Location: Arctic Black Site 09. Alara leaned back in her chair. I think we just found a way to end this. Skyfong was a legend, an orbital weapon system designed during Earth's last global war, over 100 years ago. It had been buried after the ceasefire. Too dangerous. Too powerful. Official records claimed it was decommissioned and scrapped. But it wasn't. And now, it could be Earth's only hope. Alara met with her command team that same hour. We send a squad to the Arctic. Black Site 09 is buried under a glacier. Deep. We'll need drilling equipment, shield generators, and a hacking team to reawaken the control core. Sergeant Nico frowned. We'll be exposed. Thalrex patrols are everywhere in that region. Alara nodded. That's why we send a decoy force to Norway. Make it look like we're planning a northern assault. She looked around the room. This isn't just another battle. If we get Skyfong online, we can turn their fleet into dust. No one disagreed. 3 days later, the mission began. A stealth transport, low profile and ice-armored, cut across the polar night. It moved beneath radar, skimming over glaciers and frozen oceans. Inside, Alara sat with a team of 9 engineers, soldiers, 1 hacker, and 1 AI specialist. They were tired, cold, focused. The Arctic wind howled as they landed near the coordinates. The glacier stretched in all directions, glowing blue under the moonlight. Nothing but ice and silence. They began the dig. Hours passed. The drill roared, biting into ancient ice. Sensors pinged metal after 6 meters. They had found it. Beneath the frozen shell lay a sealed bunker, covered in frost, marked with the faded emblem of the old world government. The door had no handle, just a retinal scanner and a forgotten language carved into steel. Alara wiped the frost away and looked into the scanner. It blinked green. Access granted. The door opened. Inside, the black site was dark and quiet. Frozen consoles lined the walls. Cables hung like vines. Screens flickered slowly to life as power flowed from backup fusion cores. The team moved carefully. In the central chamber, they found the Skyfong control hub, a sphere suspended in air, humming with dormant energy. The AI specialist stepped forward and linked in. Lines of code scrolled. Lights blinked. A low hum became a rising tone. It's waking up, she said. Give it time. Outside, the sky cracked. Thalrex dropships. 2 of them. We've been found, Nico shouted. Alara ordered the team into defensive positions. They had only minutes. Thalrex troops landed and charged. Plasma bolts lit the ice like fireworks. The humans fired back from behind steel crates and old server towers. 1 engineer went down. Another was dragged to cover. Alara moved like lightning, grabbing weapons, giving orders, holding the line. Inside the hub, the AI voice finally spoke. System restored. Skyfong awaiting targeting instructions. Alara didn't hesitate. Target the Thalrex orbital fleet. Priority, largest vessels. The AI beeped once. Then, target confirmed. Satellite uplink established. Far above Earth, an old, hidden satellite, coated in space dust and thought dead, blinked awake. Its massive railgun arm extended. It locked onto the Thalrex flagship formation in orbit. Then it fired. In space, the dread sun shook violently. The main screen turned white as one of the Thalrex capital ships exploded in a silent, blinding burst. Then another. Then a third. Skyfong continued to fire, 1 shot at a time, each devastating. Alien ships broke apart. Fire and debris filled the stars. Thalrex formation scattered, panicked, leaderless. On the ground, Krek stood frozen in disbelief. What have they done? He whispered. Back at Black Site 09, the battle ended with the last Thalrex soldier falling to the snow. Alara stood at the edge of the bunker, breathing hard, face smeared with blood and ash. Her voice was calm but fierce. That's for everything you burned. The Skyfong satellite remained online, silent, watching. Earth now had a weapon that could level the sky. Alara sent a message to all resistance units. Skyfong is active. The fleet is broken. This is our moment. Strike. Everywhere. From the ashes of ruined cities to the shadows of forest camps, the call echoed. Resistance cells rose up. Cities long held under alien control began to push back. And for the first time since the invasion began, the Thalrex retreated. Not far. Not yet. But enough to prove they could bleed. Back in Nova Bastion, Alara returned to cheers and celebration. But her eyes were still sharp. Focused. The war was not over. We cracked their teeth, she told Nico. Now we break their spine. The skies over Earth were quiet, but it was the silence before the storm. The Thalrex fleet was shattered. Half their ships were gone, destroyed by Skyfong's devastating orbital strikes. Their formations were broken, their confidence shaken. But they were not finished. High Warlord Krextzo had never known defeat in his 2 centuries of conquest. Now, with his pride wounded and command structure unraveling, he made a final decision. He would land. He would lead the last strike himself. A massive Thalrex dropship broke through the clouds over the ruins of old Chicago. The once great city, now nothing more than broken towers and shattered glass, was still smoldering from weeks of bombardment. Twisted steel and rusted concrete covered the streets. Burnt-out vehicles lined the highways like skeletons. This would be the final battlefield. From orbit, thousands of Thalrex soldiers descended in tight formations. Their armor gleamed red under the ash-choked sun. Mechs twice the size of tanks followed behind, their legs crushing what remained of roads and bridges. Above them flew sleek alien drones, scanning every corner for heat signatures and movement. Krex led from the front, wearing ceremonial black warplate. His eyes glowed brighter than ever, his voice booming over the battlefield. No more warnings. No more mercy. Burn them from the soil. In Nova Bastion, the war room shook as news came in. "They're gathering in Old Chicago," said an officer. "This is it. They're bringing everything." Commander Alara Voss stood still for a moment. Then she nodded. "Then we bring everything, too." She sent one final command across every resistance channel. "All forces, rally to Old Chicago. This is the stand. This is where we end it." Within hours, resistance units from all over the world converged on the ruins. Makeshift tanks rolled in from the Rocky Mountains. Drone swarms buzzed in from hidden bunkers in Asia. Urban fighters rode scavenged transports through the cracked highways, weapons strapped to their backs. Civilians carried rifles. Former engineers became gunners. Rogue AI units helped coordinate the defense network. They didn't look like an army, but they were one. And at the front stood Alara, dressed in her battered armor, a sharp rifle in hand. "We hold the line," she said. "We hold Earth." The battle began at dawn. The Thalrex came in waves, drones first, fast and deadly. Human gunners shot them out of the sky with rail-mounted cannons. EMP burst fried circuits. Traps hidden in the rubble triggered, taking out entire clusters. Next came the soldiers, alien infantry, silent and precise. They hit hard. Buildings were leveled. Resistance fighters were pushed back street by street. But every time the Thalrex advanced, the humans returned with fury. Alara led charge after charge, moving through smoke, shouting orders, pulling wounded soldiers out with her own hands. Sergeant Nico took command of the southern flank, holding a burned-out mall with only 30 fighters. They fought off 3 separate attacks before finally pushing forward. Blood mixed with rainwater in the gutters. Explosions shook the city. Drones crashed into buildings. Screams echoed through empty subway tunnels. But Earth didn't fall. At the center of it all, Alara and Krex finally met. The battlefield around them burned. Alara stepped through a fallen archway, rifle drawn, face cut and smeared with ash. Across the rubble stood Krex, taller than any human, armored like a walking fortress. They didn't speak. They simply charged. Krex swung his plasma blade, cutting through stone. Alara dodged and fired, the pulse rounds slamming into his shield. Sparks flew. They clashed again, blade to blade, fist to fist, rage to rage. Krex struck her in the side, knocking her into the wreckage of a bus. She rolled, came up bleeding, and threw a grenade that exploded beneath his feet. Smoke. Silence. Then Krex emerged, armor cracked, eyes burning. "You were just a primitive." Alara stood, barely, and growled back. "And you still haven't beaten me." She grabbed a fallen pipe, activated the electric edge, and charged. The final blow was not clean. It was not graceful, but it was human. She drove the blade through the weak joint in Krex's armor. His eyes widened. He let out a low, choking sound. Then he fell. The Thalrex saw it. Their leader was dead. Their formations began to scatter. Confused. Broken. Resistance units pressed forward, striking harder. The alien war machines hesitated, then withdrew. Within hours, the rest of the Thalrex forces were in full retreat. Earth had survived. Again, Alara collapsed beside the ruins of a wall. Medics rushed in. Fighters cried, cheered, and hugged one another. The sky above cleared for the first time in weeks. She sat up slowly, looking over the ruins of the city. Fires still burned. The cost had been enormous, but they had won. "It's over," she whispered. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe it. The war was over. For the first time in weeks, the skies above Earth were blue again. The smoke had cleared. The roar of alien engines was gone. Only the soft wind moved now, carrying dust and memory through the broken cities. Old Chicago, once a battleground, now a graveyard, lay quiet under the morning sun. Commander Alara Voss stood at the center of the ruins. Her armor was cracked. Her face was bruised and tired, but she was still standing, and that meant something. Around her, survivors worked in silence. They pulled wounded from rubble. They marked graves with scrap metal and wire. Children, silent and watching, helped carry supplies. There was no victory parade, no music, only the steady rhythm of rebuilding. Far above, in Earth's orbit, the wreckage of the Thalrex fleet drifted. Broken ships tumbled slowly, lifeless. Fire no longer rained down from the sky. Instead, Earth's newly reclaimed satellites watched silently, scanning for threats, guarding the planet like sentinels. Skyfang remained active but idle. Its cannon was cold now. No new targets. Across the planet, the resistance forces were disbanding. Fighters returned to their homes, what remained of them. Some became builders. Others became protectors. No one forgot what had happened. They had all been changed. The Earthfront Alliance, formed during the war, turned into something more. Not just soldiers. Leaders. Organizers. Keepers of peace. In the city of New Geneva, a new council gathered, one that spoke for all survivors, from every land. They swore Earth would never again be caught off guard. But there was no sense of revenge. Only a promise. In Nova Bastion, Alara entered the war memorial under construction. It was simple. A long wall of black steel, rising from the stone floor. Names were etched into it, thousands of them. Beside the wall stood the remains of a scorched Thalrex drone, chained and rusted. A reminder. At the far end of the memorial was a single phrase carved deep into the wall. They were warned. Alara ran her fingers across the words. She remembered the first day of the invasion. The fear. The uncertainty. The fires. And she remembered the final blow she had struck against Krex, the moment that had turned the tide. Not out of hate. Out of necessity. Outside, a young recruit approached her. No older than 17. Uniform clean. Eyes wide. Commander Voss? She turned. Yes. I just wanted to say thank you. We've heard stories about what you did. About how you never gave up. Alara gave a tired smile. I wasn't alone. None of us were. The recruit hesitated. Then asked. Do you think they'll come back? The Thalrex? Or something worse? Alara looked up at the sky, now clear and endless. Maybe. One day. The galaxy is wide. And we've made our mark. She paused. But if they do, we'll be ready. Later that evening, she sat alone on a bench near the edge of the city ruins. The wind carried the scent of old ash and new grass. Life was coming back, slowly. She looked out at the horizon, where shattered buildings met the rising sun. This planet had been underestimated for the last time. Humanity was not the most advanced species, not the most peaceful, not the most organized. But they were something else. Relentless. Adaptive. Stubborn. And when pushed, they fought back with everything they had. The final message sent from Earth, broadcast to all known sectors of the galaxy, was simple. No threats. No anger. Just truth. To all civilizations beyond our star. We defended our home. We warned them. They didn't listen. We hope you will.